Good day and welcome to Career Therapy with Seneca Williams, where we discuss women, work, and wellness. I'm a therapist and career coach who believes that every woman has the ability to achieve her dreams of a successful life and career. All she needs is a support network and some success skills. I am so happy and privileged to have with me today Miss Zandra Grant. She is an amazing entrepreneur, transformational speaker, and a divorce recovery coach. She is also the #1 best-selling author of her story of growing through divorce, titled Better Than Okay. Zandra also earned a Bachelor's of Science and a Master's in Business Administration. She is a certified John Maxwell team member, and she has been coaching for over 8 years now. It's her belief that life challenges can either make you bitter or make you better. The choice is yours. She also believes that when you choose to harness the pain of that experience and turn it into an opportunity for growth, you will live a life of success, freedom, joy, and happiness like never before, with a heart free to love, who you love, who you have become, and the journey you are on. I mean, this is amazing. I'm so happy she's here. Welcome, Zandra, to Career Therapy. Hello, how are you?
Hello, Seneca. I am wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here. I just love this platform that you have created and that you are using to encourage other women from the place where they currently are. So thank you so much for having me. I am wonderful. Thank you.
I love the title of your book, Better Than Okay, especially, as a divorce recovery coach, because so many of us go through life saying, oh, yeah, I'm fine, I'm okay, and, we're just kind of coasting along and we're just existing. But you're talking about, living life, like really living life. So I love that.
Thank you. Yes, that's what it's all about. It's about taking off that mask. And, it's not easy to even be okay. It takes a little bit of something within to just be okay, to get from that place where you're living in darkness and in all your shame and fear and humiliation and embarrassment and all those things, to step out of that and then into okay. Well, you still probably have a little bit of that on you, but at least you're telling yourself, I'm okay. And when someone asks, how are you? You're like, I'm okay. I'm actually okay. And, it's just that challenge to how do I get from okay to better than okay? And that is where, the real, it's tough, it's hard, it's work, but I just know, trust, and believe that everyone who is willing to do that work to go from okay to better than okay is so worth it. They're worth it. The work is worth it. It's a great work.
Wonderful. So this book and what you do definitely ties into our show topic today, 5 steps to staying focused through a divorce, because our listeners, they are interested in career development. Maybe they're interested in entrepreneurship, but let's be real, when you're pursuing career development or anything like that, life happens. Life happens when you least expect it sometimes, and it can kind of shake people up and even create blocks, like going through a divorce while maybe trying to go back to school or get a promotion or change careers, or get a new job. So I'm really happy that you're here to talk to us about, how to be better than okay, how to stay the course, how to survive divorce and recover and, still be as successful as we want to be.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here to share. I'm a very transparent divorce recovery coach, and so everything that I have, everything that I know, everything that I've been through, I use, and everything that I've read and studied, I use in order to help people grow through wherever they are in their journey. So I'm happy to be here and share, Seneca.
Yeah. So I have a question that I know some listeners may have, and it's like, how did you become a divorce recovery coach? Sometimes people like, when they're growing up, what do you want to be when you grow up? Is this your first profession, coaching? And then how did you get into divorce recovery coaching? What was your career journey? How did you get here?
So initially, while I was in high school, all I knew was, I remember the exact store that I was in, and I saw an ad in a paper for a cruise ship, work on a cruise ship. And I was like, yes, that's what I want to do. I want to work on a cruise ship. And that's all because I watched one too many episodes of The Love Boat.
It was a good show.
Yeah, and for me, Isaac kind of looked like my daddy. So I was all right with working on a cruise ship, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I was fine with that. Long story short, I've been in corporate America for about 20 years. Be 20 years in a few months. And I spend a lot of time talking to people who own businesses. I spend a lot of time doing presentations and speaking, and I've enjoyed that career. However, when my oldest son was preparing to graduate from high school, I was like, wait a minute, what am I going to do when he graduates? Because 4 years after he graduates, my baby is going to graduate. So what is life going to look like for me? What is my purpose in life? What am I going to do? I was already divorced, so I was like, well, life is very different. I'm clearly going to have to take care of myself, so what am I going to do? And I really started digging and hunting for my purpose and trying to figure this thing out. And as a part of my divorce, I went through a recovery program myself. And, I mean, I heard it as audibly as I hear you right now. And he said, this is what I have for you to do. And I'm just like, no, thank you. I'll wait for you to give me another assignment. I want to get through my own recovery and be done with this. And clearly, he did not give me another assignment. He said, no, this is what I have for you, and so this is what you are going to do. And I wrestled with it for a little while, and once I embraced helping people grow through their divorce, I had no idea what this was going to look like. I spent 4 years helping people grow through their divorce with a program at a church. And my next question was, okay, what am I supposed to do? How is this supposed to work? And I was on Facebook, and I saw the John Maxwell team ad pop up. I jumped on it, called, had lots of questions, and became a certified coach to the John Maxwell program. Well, when you're doing all your work and going in for your certification, you're supposed to think about what it is you want to specialize in. I had never heard of a divorce recovery coach. I just decided divorce coaching is not the message. I don't want people to think that I'm convincing people to get divorced. So I knew that wasn't it. So recovery coaching, I was like, well, I don't want to be confused with, recovery for alcoholics or for drug addicts or, mental illness. So I thought, okay, wait, divorce recovery, that's perfect. Okay, divorce recovery coaching. Yeah, that's me. That's what I'm going to do. And, the people that were around me were like, you're going to do what? I just thought, I've never heard of that. I said, that's funny. Me either. So I guess I'm just going to make this up, put it on a business card, and that's it. So in the midst of my certification, that's when I came up with this whole divorce recovery coaching. And so that's how I became a divorce recovery coach. And it was all because of that audible message that I heard that day, this is what I have for you to do. And so it's totally my mission and my passion and my purpose to help men and women who are going through divorce become stronger mentally, spiritually, and emotionally as a result of their divorce. Because all too often we lose sight of our dreams. We lose hope. We don't understand what the future is going to look like. And so I want to help people create the vision and the experience that they most want to enjoy on their journey. I want people to understand that you're divorced. You're not dead. And there is a whole world out there waiting for you to show up and make an impact. And so that's what I do. And I love it because I know what he did for me. And I get so excited as I work with my clients and begin to see them start to show up, begin to see them acknowledging what they've been through, appreciating where they are, appreciating the fact that they're still here. I just love watching him do for other people and my clients the same as what he did for me.
That is amazing. And I'll tell you why. First of all, I heard you mentioning how brave you are and courageous you are to see things and hear things and take leaps of faith because you feel like it's your purpose. And for many people, they're struggling to figure out what is their purpose, should they follow their purpose, but you just went right for it. You went right for it. This is my purpose, and this is the message. And I love that you said, you're listening to what God is telling you to do. So, it's not always a technical thing. Sometimes it's spiritual. It's something that you feel inside. And I think sometimes people feel that inside, but they just kind of like ignore it. They kind of hit the snooze button on it, or, just push it away because they're afraid to go after it. And it takes so much courage, because I've read your book, Better Than Okay, and I know that you, like you said, you are transparent, and you have put yourself into your work with your clients, with your book. So what I got to say is this is amazing that you shared this for our listeners to understand that, yes, you've had challenges, you've had pain, but you turned your pain into your purpose. And here we are, all these people are getting help from you. All these people are learning how to overcome divorce and recover from it. And as a therapist, I'll say that dealing with clients that are going through a divorce, and myself going through this, there's so much grief involved. Like you said, your life is not over, but it does feel like a death. It feels like a death for sure. And some people are going through anxiety disorders. They're going through major depressive disorders. It really is something that they have to recover from. So what I would ask you now is, did your own personal recovery, did it include any kind of support outside of the group at church? Did you have to get additional support? Like, how was that for you? Did you experience any grief? Did you experience any anxiety or depression?
I definitely, yes to all of that, So I did have a therapist who I met with on a regular basis, and she helped me an awful lot. And so there was a group, there was my therapist, and that was really pretty much it. Lots of prayer after a certain point, because for a lot, and since you've read the book, then you've read that for a long time I couldn't even pray because I felt like I was too far out of his reach, that I had done all these things the wrong, and that he couldn't help me. And so yes, it did take lots of things. It took the therapist, it took the group, and then eventually it took a mountain load of prayer, yes.
Well, amen to that. And Zandra, what I would say is, I know when I went through this experience myself, it definitely impacted every area of my life, including, my career. At points I thought maybe I can't even work anymore, or maybe, I'm not going to be able to function. So this is definitely what I want to, go more into, is how did that affect or impact your career development at the time and your working?
Well, and at the time, I had built this amazing mask that they knew at the office, they knew I was getting a divorce. They knew I was going through a divorce. They had no idea how dark it was for me, though. And a lot of them, once they read the book, were like, Donna, we cannot believe that you went through all that and you didn't say a word. Well, when you're going through that, there's so much shame and embarrassment and humiliation. You don't want to announce that. You just want to hold it in, cover it up, and make it pretty, so you can keep going. Now, at my corporate career, I was actually excelling because that was my escape. That gave me something to focus on. Yes, it gave me something to focus on. Never mind that I'm driving down the freeway, and in Seneca, I know you read the book, so I'll say this much from the book, is that I'm driving down the freeway, and I have this thought that, well, this is too painful. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I don't want to commit suicide because I don't want my sons to have to live with the fact that their mother committed suicide. So I'll just drive fast and run into this concrete barrier, and it'll look like I lost control of the car, and I'll be done with this pain. I won't have to worry about it. People won't have to worry about me, and all will be fine. And I'm on my way to work. I'm still functioning. I'm still masking. But I'm in this place of depression. I'm in this place of having that one thought and thinking, okay, not today, maybe tomorrow. Clearly, tomorrow never happened. Mm-hmm. But it's still that place that you're in where you're masking, you're hiding, you're coping, or so you think you are. I thought I was. And it all came to a head on a Friday evening when I found myself just exhausted and crying uncontrollably. I didn't know anybody could cry that hard. It was just like ridiculous. The waterworks wouldn't turn off. I couldn't stop shaking. I mean, there was just all this going on at one time. And it was just really me sitting in my reality, taking the mask off and just being present. That's what it all came to that one Friday night.
For sharing that. That is an amazing testimony. Definitely an amazing testimony of not only what it's like to go through this pain, but you overcame it. Right now we have to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to definitely be getting into some ways to manage this pain so that we can be successful, so that we can achieve the lifestyle that God intended for us. And, we can have a testimony too. So stay tuned. We'll be back shortly. Hello and welcome back to Career Therapy with Seneca Williams. Today we have Sandra Grant, which is the #1 best-selling author of Better Than Okay, and she is also a specialist in divorce recovery. We were just talking about how difficult and devastating it is sometimes to go through a divorce and try to wear a mask, but as Sandra stated, at some point the mask falls off and you can't keep it on anymore, and you need to be able to move forward, to grow. So I'm so happy that she's here so she can share with us some steps, to get through a divorce, still maintain your lifestyle, still maintain your career development, and feel better than okay. Welcome back, Sandra.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
What kinds of things can you do if you can put it into some steps for our listeners? What kinds of things can you do if you are experiencing this kind of grief or depression? You're trying to hold it together. You're trying to go to work and be your best self, but, you're struggling with the emotions. What are some things people can do?
Well, I think it all starts with acknowledging where you are and everything that's happened, and just being very real with self about that. All too often, it's easier for us to point the finger at other people or deny. So the first thing is to acknowledge all that's happened and accept that, and then appreciate the fact that you're still here. There's so much good that happens when we just learn to find a few things to appreciate and then move into that next level, and that's a matter of, dealing with our negative emotions. With divorce comes a plethora of negative emotions, and so we really need to figure out, what am I feeling emotionally? How do I handle that? How do I do that? What does that look like? What does that feel like? And then we have to, once we figure out our negative emotions, and then we figure out what's behind that. What's hurting? Why am I hurting so bad, even still? And so we work to figure all that out, and from there is where we begin to forgive. We begin with ourselves. We have to forgive ourselves and acknowledge that, I'm not perfect, and a lot of us expect ourselves to be. That whole label, perfectionist. We expect ourselves to be perfect, and we expect ourselves to deal with things the way that people in society decide we deal with them, we should deal with them, and that's typically not the way it happens. So we have to begin to forgive ourselves and then forgive other people that hurt us. And then we have to learn to value ourselves. Going through divorce changes people. Once that divorce gets filed, once those papers are received, you are no longer the same person that you were the week before, the month before, the quarter before, the year before. Everything about an individual going through divorce changes. And we have to decide, is that change going to be for the better or not? Are we going to become better, or are we going to become bitter? And once we start to value ourselves and begin a new self-love, and I say a new self-love because you're a new being, and it's not a matter of being your old you, becoming your old you. That's just not even possible. It's a matter of a new you. It's kind of like this opportunity to reinvent yourself, if you will. and start a new self-love, a new relationship with yourself. It's almost like you have to begin to date yourself. You have to get to know you. A lot of us, especially women, find ourselves so caught up in our marriage, our husband, our kids, and we lose sight of our own identity. We become so wrapped up in them and all of that that we lose sight of ourselves. We don't even know who we are. We don't know, do I like chicken or do I like fish?
Right.
I need furniture. Do I want leather or do I want cloth? I need some art on the wall. Do I want photos, abstract, sketch? What do I want? We don't even know. So we have to we have to be on this journey and be intentional and be deliberate about being present on the journey. Because a lot of times we will busify ourselves. Yeah, we're on a journey. We have no clue where we are. We have no clue where we're going. We know where we came from, but we're trying to forget that too. So we're just blindly on a journey with no purpose, no passion, no hope, no vision, and we're just there. We're not even really present. We're just there. And so we begin to value ourselves, and we learn to create all these new things about ourselves and develop this new appreciation, this new self-love for ourselves. And then it kind of spreads out into our journey. It's from within to without, and it just keeps going. And then we're able to evolve. And so as we evolve, after we have this new self-love and this new value, then we begin to evolve, because now that we've gone and we've done all this work within, now we can figure out, okay, what do I want my life to look like? What is it that I really want to do? Who is it that I most want to be? How do I want to enjoy this journey? What do I want with me? Where do I want to go? What do I want my career to look like? What do I want my house to look like? And we all have that ability to begin to make those decisions from a place of clarity after the other work is done. And those are the steps. So the steps would be to talk, to handle the emotions, to reveal the hurt, to identify who I need to forgive, starting with me, and then value ourselves and develop a new self-love, and then evolve and enjoy the journey.
Yeah, it is a journey for sure. I love it. Acknowledge and appreciate. Sometimes we're so upset and angry at losing what we wanted, what we planned for, that we don't acknowledge that it's not going to happen, Like, we plan out sometimes our whole lives, like up until retirement, like, okay, we're going to be married and we're going to live here, then we're going to buy a house there. And sometimes it's so hard because we cannot acknowledge that that is not going to happen. And then we have to appreciate what is working and what we do have and what we are blessed with. So acknowledge and appreciate. And then, as you said, dealing with the negative emotions. Sometimes people want to kind of glaze over or, go around the pain, and they want to go over it and under it, but they don't want to go through the pain. And I know for many of the clients that I've had, what they'll do is, so that they don't deal with their negative emotions, they hop into another situation or relationship. And I call that Novocaine. It's like they're numbing the pain. They don't want to deal with, the heartache of it, so they jump into something else. So like you said, so as you were saying, Zandra, dealing with negative emotions, that is so important, because what will happen is sometimes, and I've experienced this with clients of mine, they're going through all of this pain. They don't want to feel these negative emotions, and what they tend to do is jump into another situation, another relationship, and they're doing that to numb the pain that they're experiencing. They don't want to go through the pain. They want to go over it, under it, around it. So I, refer to that as Novocaine, because what they're doing, they're really trying to numb the pain that they're feeling from going through the divorce.
Absolutely, I agree. Oftentimes we jump into another relationship, we shop, we eat, we charge up things. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that we self-medicate. And, at the end of the day, hurt people hurt people. And it's unintentional most of the time. We don't realize just how hurt or damaged or broken we are. We're just trying to make it. And that piece of loneliness, that little seed of loneliness that is on the inside of us, just grows. And so rather than feeding our emotions in a healthy way, we end up just reaching out in order to kill the feeling of loneliness. And then that's when we jump into the relationships. That's when we start buying all kinds of things. That's when we just really start letting go. Some people party, some people drink, some people start trying drugs. And there's just all these ways that people start to self-medicate when really we just need to do the work. We just need to start from talking, acknowledging, and accepting and appreciating. We just need to start there. And with the right support, all of this can be done. No matter where you are in the situation, with the right support, you can go back and you can start at talking and acknowledging and accepting and appreciating where you are rather than self-medicating.
Yes. And part of that, like you said, forgive yourself and others, that is the work that many people don't do and the work that they need to do. And they struggle with that. So while we're talking about that, are there any tips that you have on how do you forgive yourself?
Absolutely. So you first start with being real with you, being real with your role, the role that you played in the divorce, in who you are, in where you are. You know, if you're sitting looking at a mountain of debt, look at the role that you played in that. No matter what the situation is, we have to acknowledge our role in that. And then we have to acknowledge that, you know what, yes, I did this. And, okay. And we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and apologize to ourselves. We have to look ourselves in the eyes, not at that pimple that's on the chin or whatever, but we have to totally look ourselves in the eyes and sincerely apologize to ourselves. And then respond with, I forgive you. I forgive you for maxing out all those credit cards. I forgive you for eating that entire pie. I forgive you for buying all those shoes. I forgive you for buying that last handbag that you really didn't need. I forgive you for this. I forgive you for that. And then say to ourselves, I love you. I love you right where you are. I love you for who you are. I love you for all your imperfections. I love you for everything good about you, and I love you for everything that we are going to change. And we really have to get real. We, in essence, after doing that mirror work, then it's better if we even write ourselves a letter acknowledging all that we've forgiven ourselves for. And then only after doing that can we begin to forgive some other people. And a lot of times, forgiving ourselves is the hardest thing to do. It's harder to forgive ourselves for our role, and it's easier to stay bitter at everybody else or to grow bitter toward everyone else because we feel like by acknowledging to ourselves that I forgive my ex, then that makes everything that he did okay. And that's not what it means. It's simply because me being bitter at him is not hard at him at all. He's like, whatever, I'm out of there, kind of thing. He's off doing his own thing.
Right.
Meanwhile, my blood pressure is up every time he comes to pick up our son or whatever. It causes me more harm. It does damage to me internally. It does damage to me emotionally. It causes me to lose my center and my focus. And so that's why me forgiving him has nothing to do with him. He never even has to ask. He never even has to know that I have forgiven him. However, I will say this.
For you.
That's right. And it should be visible because we know we get a little saucy. We get a little funky sometimes when they come around. Be like, kind of attitude. And that's that bitterness. That's that hatred. That's that anger that's still in there. And the minute we decide to forgive them and start acting and living in that forgiveness, in that place of forgiveness, we no longer do that side-eye thing. We no longer do that, we no longer find ourselves off-center. Because that person is now in our presence. It no longer affects us. And that's how you know. And sometimes, you know what? Sometimes you have to forgive several times in one day. Sometimes you have to forgive several times in a week. Whatever it takes, be willing to simply say, and sometimes whisper it, sometimes write it. I forgive him. I forgive me. I forgive that one for that reason, or that one for that reason. And with my clients, I do have them make a list of what they need to forgive themselves for, and then write out the opposite of that. I have them make a list of who they need to forgive and why they need to forgive them, or what it is that person did that they're forgiving them for.
That is really good. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's so much healing that happens when you put pen to paper, not typing, pen to paper. And so my clients all keep a journal, and each one of these lessons is in there. And I'm like, listen, if ever you need to go back and forgive somebody or add something else to that list for that person, you've got it right there. Or you can start a new sheet. But we definitely need to keep a journal of who it is we need to forgive, what they did, and why we need to forgive them. Because at the end of the day, when you look at that list, all that you're holding on to is not affecting them. And at the end of the day, it's only affecting you emotionally and probably spiritually, which can then carry over into your finances.
This is amazing, and it's so good. It's you're giving gems here. I'm excited to hear about the journal writing because I advocate for journal writing all the time. We have to take a break, but when we come back, I definitely want to continue talking about what you're talking about is writing as a form of self-help. And, let's talk about what else you can provide or offer for our listeners. So we'll be back in a few. Please stay with us. Hello and welcome back to Career Therapy with Seneca Williams. Today we have Zandra Grant, divorce recovery coach and the #1 best-selling author of Better Than Okay. I'm so happy that she's here. We were just talking about how we can use journal writing as a way to go through the steps to recover from divorce. And we were talking about forgiveness and developing self-love. And I really love journal writing. Let me tell you, Zandra, I've been writing in my journal before I knew what journal writing was, like since a little kid in my composition book. And I didn't know what I was doing. It was only until I got older and I became a therapist and I understood clinically what, journal writing is and how useful it is. So there's like research backing how useful it is to actually put, like you said, pen to paper and write your thoughts out and process. So I think this is really great that you're doing that, and it's something that you incorporate into your work with your clients, as well as, I hear that you have an upcoming project where they can do more of this. So please share with our listeners a little bit more about what you have coming up for 2018.
Absolutely. Well, so for 2018, yes, I have I have private sessions that, that is where my clients meet with me once a week for an hour, and we work through their process using my Thrive method. And so we do that, and that is where I encourage them to journal as we grow through their divorce. And go through the whole talking, handling, reveal, identify, value, and evolve. So they're journaling that entire time. That is 1 hour a week for 12 weeks. So that's a pretty good-sized journal with lots of really good work that's going to take them from fears and tears to living, loving, and thriving. And then I have a workbook that is coming out in early 2018, should be between mid-January. It's titled Journey to Better Than Okay. And in that piece of work is a tool that I want people to use, and I'm even working with churches in order so that they can minister to their community, people who are going through or have gone through divorce. And that is 7 chapters. And, really, I recommend taking 1 chapter a week. Now, there are some people that are like, no, I'm doing this and I'm doing this now, and they're going to work through that workbook in a matter of a week because they just want to get some relief. They just want to heal. And no, you can't rush your healing, but you can certainly work through the workbook at your pace, whatever feels right and best for you, at a pace that allows you to grow, allows you to begin your healing process, allows you to get those breakthroughs that you so desperately want so that you can go from tears and fears to living, loving, and thriving. And it's one chapter a week for 7 weeks, and in each chapter there are many questions that, and I say one chapter a week because these questions are not just your surface level questions. You have to deal with some things about your life, about who you are, about who you've been, about who you want to be that cause you to really have to stop and think and then write. And then stop and think some more, and then write. Because, like, in chapter 1 is all about what happened. We really need to stop and look at, what happened? What really happened? We think one thing happened, and then 3 months down the road, we find out all this really happened, And then we start facing the emotions, facing all the emotions that are bubbling up for you. And, some of them you may not even understand. But once you start writing these out, once you start answering some of these questions, other emotions come to you, and you're just like, yeah, I felt that. Or, oh, that was weird, I felt that. And so you really start dealing with your emotions. And then you start learning, the next chapter after that is learning to forgive. And again, it starts with self and then other people. And then you begin your healing. And then you begin to think about, what does moving on look like for me? Now, when I say moving on, I'm not talking about moving on into a new relationship. I'm talking about moving on for you from this place that you are, and figuring out where it is that you want to be, what it is that you want to be, who it is you want to be, and what does that mean? What do I need to do to get from this me to that me over there that I really want to enjoy? And then we take a look at loneliness. What does loneliness look like for you? What do you do when you feel your loneliness? Because a lot of times that's when we start self-medicating. And then what it means to date. Loneliness and dating, we can make some seriously bad decisions from that place of being lonely. You might choose somebody that you never would have considered had you not been lonely. And so we take a look at that. And then I'll kind of walk you through some successful co-parenting traits and tips that you can use to co-parent successfully and learn how to communicate with your ex. Everybody's different, and so what everybody does to communicate with their ex is different. But here's some things to think about. Is your ex a morning person? And if he's not, why do you call him in the morning to talk to him about your child or an issue with the child? I wouldn't do that. I would wait until he's had his coffee, if he's a coffee drinker, or, if he needs to read the paper or scroll social media. If it's 10 o'clock is the best time to talk to him, don't call at 7.
I'm laughing here because this is all really great information, and you are, testifying, and you are preaching, and you are giving therapy and all of that. But some people will be like, I don't care if he's not a morning person. That's not my problem.
Right. Now, that can happen. However, it also leads to you being frustrated at the end of the call. At the end of that conversation, because he didn't hear you. And so whatever you said was not received. So that's why I say we just kind of stop and think about, if you want to communicate successfully, successful communication looks like this. It looks like one person talking, the other person listening, letting them talk, and then when that person finishes talking, the other person responds while that person listens, not listening to respond, but listening to hear. And
right.
That's what successful communication looks like. We forget that because we're all in our emotions, and because we're all in our emotions, we don't even hit the 3 things we want to talk about. We got stuck on one, and he got mad, so now we're nowhere. So we have to have our list of things that we want to talk about. We have to call at the time that's right, not just for me, but the time that's right for him, so he will hear, or she, so that other person will hear what it is that I've called to talk about, right? And then we have to follow up, with a text and say, okay, thanks for the conversation. Here's what we decided. That way you do not have to call back to say, no, wait a minute, what did we decide?
Right,
That's as much for
right.
you as it is for that other person via a text or via an email, whatever it is, we have to follow up and document. That way we don't have to revisit the conversation. And it gets easier the more we do it, just like anything. Practice does not make perfect. Practice just makes us better.
Better.
So the more we
better,
do it,
not bitter.
That's right.
right. Better, not bitter. And I love it because what you're talking about, these things like active listening and documenting and confirming and all of that, those are things that can be used not just for communicating with your ex or your children's father, but it's something that you can use in other areas of life, such as at work. You find some people are dealing with difficulties at work and in other relationships just because they don't want to take the time to say, okay, what works best for not just me, but what works best for us in this situation. But like you said, if people are stuck in their emotions, they're like, I don't care about accommodating anyone else, or they should just talk to me when I'm ready to talk. And, they get upset and they're like, well, why do I have to bend over for this person? So like you said, you have to work on the emotions. You have to forgive. You have to work on self-love. So this is all amazing. And I'm excited to hear that you have a workbook to help people going through the steps and the stages. For many people, they don't understand that going through a divorce, there are stages similar to grief stages that someone experiences if someone passes away. And everyone has a different time frame for moving through the stages. So they may want to complete the book in a week, but they may need, a couple weeks, or they may need to redo your book, over and over until it finally sticks. So you said it's available in churches, or it could be available for churches. Can someone just contact you and say, hey, can we get some of these workbooks for my church?
Absolutely. So it will be available on Amazon. And yes, I am working with quite a few churches in order to make them available by way of a packet. Maybe, depending on the size of the church, depending on the size of number of people they want to help, then they'll order that number. And then I'm also even going to offer some Zoom groups where, people have ordered the book and they would like to get together on a Zoom where, you can see who's talking and you can interact. And so I'll even make some Zoom groups available as I launch that book. So if you want to communicate with me, if you want to find out more, if you want to be in the know when this book launches, you can find me on Facebook at Zandra Grant, or you can find me at I Am Major Mark on both Facebook and Instagram. And my website is majormark, one word, .org, majormark.org. That is how you can find me and communicate with me. And everything will be all over social media. So I just want as many people to get this workbook because, like you said, you work through it one time, and then you some time will lapse, and then you go back, and then you work through it again. It's like, wow, using a different color ink, and you're like, wow, okay, I did grow. I made some progress. I understand what happened. I understand my emotions, but now I've got different emotions coming up, so let me work through that, Well, maybe I need to do this work on learning to forgive again, So, yeah, definitely the workbook will be great for people who need that repeat because a lot of times issues that we deal with in our life are going to continue to come up until we get it right, until we learn that lesson. And it's when we learn that lesson that we get to move on and graduate, if you will, to that next level. But until we get that lesson, we will continue in that spiral until we get the lesson and grow from there.
I love it. Amazing testimony, the resources that you are providing, very much needed. There is someone listening that is at work, going to work, struggling, going through a divorce, and thinking to themselves, how am I going to deal with this? What am I going to do? I've heard, women saying that I'm at work and I just feel like breaking down crying. And what would you tell her, if she were sitting in front of you right now wearing that mask at work? What would you say to her?
Absolutely. First of all, I would say, I get it. I've been there. And breaking down at work is not an option unless we can step away and have ourselves a moment where we can get that cry out. Maybe you go to the parking garage and get in your car. maybe that you go for a walk outside of the office. But if we just have to have that cry at work, we step away from everybody and we have ourselves a moment. Otherwise, I would say, for me, I always found myself holding on, driving home, and as soon as the garage door went down, so did my mask, and so did all the tears. And so to those people at work, I just say, you are not by yourselves. You are not alone. There are resources available. I am available. This is my passion. This is my purpose. This is my mission. So you can always reach out to me, and we can start communicating. And I also, Seneca, for your listeners, I have a 45-minute free consultation, and that can be booked at majormark.org. You just click to schedule my consultation, and my calendar will pop up, and you can select the date and time that's best for you. We can talk about where you are. We can talk about how I can help you, and then go from there. If private sessions is something that you're interested in, the 12-week program.
Amazing. Thank you so much for providing this wealth of information, for sharing your testimony, for giving people the opportunity to know that they can overcome this and you can support them through it. And they can look out for your upcoming work. You have Better Than Okay, and then you have Journey to Better Than Okay.
Yes, that's right.
Which is coming out in 2018. So they have that to look forward to. I'm looking forward to getting hands on that because I've read Better Than Okay, and it really is all of you in that work. So happy to hear that you are continuing to support others, and I look forward to following what else you're going to be doing as well. And thank you for joining us at the show.
It is my pleasure, and I know you read Better Than Okay, and if your listeners want to get their hands on a copy of that, that's also available on Amazon. So when you go to Amazon, just put in Better Than Okay, and you'll see my face on the cover, and you can get a copy of that book from there.
Amazing. Wonderful. Thank you so much again. I'd also like to... You're very welcome, and thank you. So I'd like to thank the listeners today. It was another great episode of Career Therapy with Seneca Williams. Thank you to our guests. Thank you to our listeners, and I look forward to talking to you